Hello students. In the previous class we have seen the introduction to mechanics. Before starting today's class, kindly keep it in mind this class routine, and while connecting to for the online class, kindly be on time so that you will not miss the important part of the lecture. I have observed that some people come even after 20 minutes. Kindly don't do that. So keep it in mind. We have 4 days, 1, 2, 4, 5 class, and 4 and 5 days classes, and the timing is also given. You must have your timetable routine with you, and kindly follow it. So in the previous class I have shared the lesson plan and the syllabus with you. Now we will go one by one. In the previous class, along with introduction, we have seen the force system, and in the force system we have completed the basic concepts and force system. Even we have seen the definition of rigid body and the different types of forces in the force system, that is coplanar forces, concurrent forces, non-concurrent forces, etc. Let me revise the things for a couple of minutes. As we all of us are aware that mechanics, it is the oldest of the physical sciences, and we have seen the contribution of different scientists like Aristotle, then Archimedes, Galileo, Kepler, Newton, Bernoulli, Euler, Lagrange, D'Alembert, Einstein, and even Planck and Bohr. So all these scientists, great scientists, had their valuable invention in these subjects, and we have to study the different principles based on their outcomes. Mechanics, as we are aware that it is the branch of the physical science, and that is concerned with the state of the rest or motion of the bodies subjected to the action of forces. So while seeing the classification of mechanics, we have seen that our subject interest is the rigid body mechanics, and it is again subdivided into two parts, that is statics and dynamics. So rigid body, already it is we have seen in the previous class that it is a combination of large number of particles in which all particles remain at a fixed distance practically from one another before and after applying a load. That is, the distance doesn't change even before and after applying a load. And in the true sense, what is the meaning? That a rigid body does not deform under load. But we have seen that practically, actually, there is all the bodies deform a bit, but we are assuming as rigid body in what condition? When the deformation is negligible. So in that, again, statics and dynamics, already you have studied in class 11 that statics, it deals with the equilibrium of bodies under the action of forces. That is, body may be either at rest or move with a constant velocity. And here I would like you people to widen examples by putting the examples into that. That we are a person sitting on a chair, or even a car moving with a uniform velocity, like that. All the situation where the equilibrium condition is achieved, that is the it is studied under the statics. Whereas dynamics, as the name indicates, it deals with the motion, and it is accelerated motion. So in the dynamics, all the study related to the motion, of course forces acting on the body with the effect of the accelerated motion, it is studied under dynamics. So while studying the basics of mechanics, there are certain laws which we must all of us must be familiar, and Newton's contribution already we have seen in the introductory class that a large contribution by Newton through his three laws of motion. All of you know. Let us see it one by one quickly. First law: a particle originally at rest or moving in a straight line with a constant velocity tends to remain in its states provided the particle is uh, not subjected to the unbalanced force. So that equilibrium word frequently we are experiencing, and it is very important that unbalanced forces are not there, means body is in the equilibrium conditions. So whether it is in the static condition or even it is moving with a uniform velocity, so it continues to remain in the static condition until and unless any unbalanced forces act upon it. Similarly, it continues to goes in the uniform with a uniform velocity in a direction until and unless some unbalanced forces act upon it. Second law, as per the second law, the acceleration of an object as produced by a net force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the net force in the same direction as the net force. Mathematically, we write the second law as F is equal to ma, where F is the force, m is the mass of the particular entity, and a is the acceleration. Uh, Coming to the third law, the statement again, for every action there is equal and opposite reaction. So this law, all these laws practically we experience in our day-to-day life on a large extent, and this is the beauty of engineering we have to study. You can see that most of the theory part you have already studied in class 11 and even 12, but the next part of that application part we are going to study in our subject. And for applying the things, we our fundamentals must be very clear. So always keep these things in some basic things in your mind. We should not forget those things, like everyday activities. We comb our hair, we take bath, isn't it? And we need not have to remind those things. We do it automatically. In the similar way, some of these basic laws, basic fundamentals in engineering mechanics, we should not forget at all. We have to keep it in mind always. So here, for every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. We can see that there are two balls colliding on each other, and ball A is exerting force on ball B. Similarly, ball B is exerting force on ball A. So two of these forces are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. So force exerted by B on A is equal to force exerted by A on B. Forces always occur in pairs of equal and opposite forces. This is very important, that forces always occur in equal and opposite direction, and it occurs in pairs. So while talking about equilibrium of a particle, uh, let us see that what are the conditions. Oftenly in the exams, what are the conditions of equilibrium, it is asked, and it is very simple, and we have to give those conditions. Let us see what are the conditions. A particle is in equilibrium when when the resultant of all forces acting on it equals to 0. So in the simple language, that the forces are balanced one. There is no unbalanced force, and that is tending the body to remain in the particular state. Whether it may be state of rest or it may be state of uniform motion, that the body is under the balance forces. And we have seen practically many example in our day-to-day life that uh, we fall sometimes while walking or while running. What happens at that time? The forces acting on our body get imbalance. And similarly, vehicle accident happens, or it becomes unbalanced. It is due to the equilibrium failure. We can say that the equilibrium condition is failed at that time, at that moment. So while talking about the two-dimensional forces, conditions of equilibrium, for two-dimensional plane, the conditions of equilibrium are summation of all the forces in x direction is equal to 0. Summation of y direct for all the forces in y direction is equal to 0, and summation of moment, bending moment, is equal to 0. So as we are talking about 2D plane, so obviously there is we have the plane, two-dimensional plane, xy plane, and we are talking about the planar forces. Similarly, when we are discussing about the 3D space, three-dimensional space, it is dealing with the x, y and z coordinate. So conditions of equilibrium are summation of all the forces in x direction is equal to 0. Summation of all the forces in y direction is equal to 0. Summation of all the forces in z direction is equal to 0. Similarly, summation of bending moment in all the direction is equal to 0. So these are the conditions of equilibrium. Similarly, next important term, basic term, is free body diagram. So FBD, in short form, it is written as FBD. So what is free body diagram? It is diagram drawn by considering the effect of all the forces but separated from all interacting bodies is known as free body diagram. Let us see one simple example, a book lying on a table. So visualize a book lying on a table, and if we want to draw the free body diagram, means we have to remove all the support. We have to consider only the effect. So if we remove this support and imagine that this book is hanging, so what will be the effect of that? The weight of the book will go in the downward direction. Similarly, the table is supporting that weight, and it will offer the reaction in that context. And when it is in the equilibrium, which it is achieving the equilibrium, it is obvious that both the forces are balancing each other, equal and opposite. So here we can see that the weight of the book, mg, it is balanced by the reaction offered by the table. Now, what will happen if we apply a force to the book towards right? Keep on thinking that what will happen if we apply the force like this and to the book. Will it move from one place to another place by a little force? It may not move up till a certain force, but when this force exceeds this weight, then it will start moving the towards the right direction. And one thing will happen for due to that, this interlocking interlocking tendency in between the roughness of the table and the book, that will offer the resistance. In short, this table surface will offer the resistance in the opposite direction. Again, it will try to resist, so that amount will be same before it move from that place. So the reaction will be R equal to and in the opposite direction to F before moving the book. Similarly, let us try this simple example: a ball resting on a ground. It is similar. In the previous case, the book is replaced by here the ball, and the table is replaced by ground. So the free body diagram will be same. The weight of the ball will be going acting in the downward direction on ground, and in return ground will offer the reaction in the opposite direction to it. Similarly, consider a ball. It is tied with the help of a string C and resting to a wall. What will be the free body diagram for this? Again, we can see here the weight of the ball, it is going in the downward direction. Similarly, the string is offering the support to that weight, so it will go in the opposite direction, and this ball is touching this wall, so it is applying force on the wall. So in return, this wall will also offer the reaction to the ball. So this is the free body diagram, that reaction offered by the wall at this point A, weight of this ball moving in the downward direction, and T is the tension on the string. So this is about the free body diagram. It is very simple yet very important stage while solving the force system, that we need to draw first the free body diagram by removing all the supports and considering its effect. So here two figures I am giving it to you, that quickly draw it in your copy and draw the free body diagram of these two figures and post it in our online classroom. Free body diagram, so as we have seen that in order to investigate the equilibrium condition of a constant body, it is convenient to imagine that the supports are removed and replaced by the reactions which they exert on the body. So remove the support and replace those forces by particular reaction. So that is called as the free body diagram. Now next important term is principle of transmissibility. So this is again very interesting thing regarding the force, that in the first class we have seen that force is a vector quantity, all of you are aware. So regarding force we need its magnitude. To express the force we need its magnitude, its direction, as well as the point of application. But here one term is again there, that is the line of action. And here you can see that the condition of equilibrium or motion of a rigid body remains unchanged if a force acting at a given point of a rigid body is replaced by a force of same magnitude and direction but acting at a different point, provided that the same two forces have the same line of action. So here this term is very important, that the same same two forces have the same line of action, isn't it? That this line you can see, this dotted line, and this line shows what? It is the line of action. So this line is the line of action, and we can replace the same force, we can put this force anywhere along this line in the same direction. And we can see here that initially it was acting at the point A, and now we are showing on the same line of action at B in the same direction. So in that case the effect of that force doesn't change at all, and this is called as principle of transmissibility. So this is very important when we do the resolution of forces. This transmissibility principle we often apply to understand the uh, position of that particular force. Then let us see the basic laws again. Triangle law of forces. So what is that? What the triangle law says, that if two forces F1 and F2 acting simultaneously on a particle can be represented by the sides of a triangle, then taken in order, then the third side, that is closing side, represents the resultant in the opposite order. So here we can see that two concurrent forces are there. What is the meaning of concurrent forces? Forces acting at a point, right? Concurrent forces meeting at a point. So these forces when taken in order that they are forming the two sides of the triangle. Then the third closing side of the triangle, it represents the resultant in the opposite order. You can see here the direction is going like this and the resultant is shown in the opposite direction. What is theta here? Theta is the included angle. Now next important law is parallelogram law of forces. So this law also you have seen that uh, two forces acting on a particle may be replaced by a single force called their resultant, which can be obtained by drawing diagonal of parallelogram which has sides equal to the given forces. So we have here force A and force A and force B at an angle uh, theta, to theta, here half we have done. It forms the two sides of parallelogram. So the diagonal of that represents the resultant. And how it is completed? That's simply parallel line. We have seen the principle of transmissibility. So the force effect doesn't change. So here is force A and here is force B, and we are completing the parallelogram by taking the parallels to this side OA and OB and completing the parallelogram. Then the diagonal is representing the resultant. You can show this by graphical method as well, graphically drawing that, and by seeing the simple geometry of this parallelogram, we can obtain the formula, that is the resultant r square is equal to p square plus q square. It is, please consider this is a uh, it is p square plus q square plus 2pq cos alpha. Similarly, the angle, included angle of the resultant and the force, it is taken as it is given by the formula p sine alpha upon q plus p cos alpha. You can easily do the proof of this formula by putting this angle alpha and drawing a line, drawing a right angle triangle to the parallelogram and applying the simple trigonometry by CD and OD, by taking the tan theta of the angle, you will get this formula. And by applying this formula directly, we can find out the resultant when the two forces are given in this way. Two concurrent forces resultant, we need to find out direct formula we can apply. Now, one another very important term is resolution of a single force into two components. What is the meaning of resolution? Are you aware about that? That a single force is there and that force we are resolving along its x-axis and y-axis. So this is, in short, we can say that this F is the resultant of these two forces, isn't it? So we are going in the reverse direction, finding the resultant that we have seen, and here we are resolving this force into two components. So it is obvious that suppose this is the force which is making angle at an angle theta along with the x-axis, then how the component we will get? If we shift this y-axis this side, we will get a right angle triangle, isn't it? And by taking that simple trigonometry, if we draw a vertical line from here, and this is the right angle triangle. So what we get by applying the simple trigonometry, this side is the f cos theta and this side it is the parallel one. So we get it is as f sin theta. So accordingly we can resolve the force into two components. So this is very simple but very important step to resolve the forces. You can see here that I have given the four different forces in four different quadrant. All of you are well familiar in mathematics, the quadrant system, right? First quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. And here I have taken four different forces which are making angle theta 1, theta 2, theta 3, and theta 4 with the x-axis. Now here I have written some letters A, S, T, and C. What does it indicate? You have learned the trigonometry uh, from your schooling, isn't it? And what is that indicates that in first quadrant all remains positive. All means what? Sine, cos, and tan. Similarly, in the second quadrant, sine component is positive and the cos component is negative. And due to that, sine by cos is tan, so that's why tan component is also negative. In the third quadrant, we can see that it is negative x and negative y. So sine and cos both are negative, and tan, since it is the ratio of that, it is positive. And in the fourth quadrant, we have cos component positive and sine is negative, also tan is negative. This is very simple phenomenon, but you need to keep it in mind. So here these four letters A, S, T, C, you need to remember. You can make the sentence out of that add sugar to cup, like that, isn't it? And in that way you can take the components. We can resolve any force in a very simple way, that in which quadrant it is lying, and according to that you resolve it. Again, one simple thing to that if suppose a force is there, and if you are not sure about its quadrant, suppose this is a force and its direction is like this. So if this force, if you want to find out in which quadrant it is, simply from its beginning you draw a vertical line and you draw a horizontal line. So what it is indicate that it is lying in the third quadrant, isn't it? Similarly, if any force is there like this, so draw a vertical line and draw a horizontal line, you can easily find out that it is in the first quadrant. Similarly, in any example, in any direction, you can take a arbitrary force, and the way to find out its quadrant is just to draw the vertical and horizontal line, and you can easily identify it, that in which quadrant it lies, and according to that you can find out its quadrant and at the same time its components, right? So this is very simple trick to find out the components of the forces, and it really works when you have the system with number of forces. So in today's class, what we have seen? We have seen the basic fundamentals such as the particle equilibrium of a particular particle and how that equilibrium is achieved. Then we have seen the three basic laws, Newton's laws. And then we have seen the free body diagram, concept of free body diagram, and simple examples we have seen. Then how the force system or a force it is resolved into two components, that also we have seen. In the next lecture we will see that how these uh, things we have seen is applied while solving the problems. So this is all for today. So thank you. Stay home, stay safe. Good day.